All right, we are live and welcome to the podcast roundtable chat. Right now, we are joined by two different podcasts right now, and we're waiting on a couple others to join in. So they'll join in as we go along. So I'm going to give the floor to you two gentlemen and let you introduce yourselves and your podcast.
Go ahead.
I'm Jimmy Clare. I'm the host of Crazy Fitness Guys Healthy Living podcast, and it can be found on many different platforms.
My name is Six. I am the co-host to the Cancel for Maintenance podcast. You can find us on pretty much anywhere: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We don't have a TikTok though, so we might get to that eventually.
Awesome. All right, so let's get started with, I guess, why you guys started off with your podcast.
Jimmy, go ahead.
I started my podcast due to I just wanted to expand my reach. I started off as just a blog and a business, and then I wouldn't say I got tired of the blogging, but after a while, it is you and your own thoughts, and I'm like, can I actually meet people? I'm kind of bored, especially during the pandemic. And so since Crazy Fitness Guys was selling his third birthday, hey, I expanded my reach.
Awesome, man.
And how about you, Six?
So it actually started as like an idea in a smoking area. Well, we were having such a bad day at one of our jobs, and we had some aircraft technicians who were in a worse shape than us, and we started just conversing with them, having a normal talk with them to kind of de-stress them a little bit. And we did this for about 2 or 3 months, and we finally just looked at each other and were like, you know what, we should make this into a podcast where we're just talking about some of the day-to-day lives or the day-to-day tasks that aircraft maintainers have to do. And once we launched it out, we got like instant feedback, like, oh, this, I can relate to this so much and stuff like that. So that's just that's been propelling us to keep doing it more and more. And we brought along a audio guy who's never done anything aviation before, and we were just telling him stories and he was laughing the entire time. So that's kind of like how we kicked off from there.
And how did you come up with your name to your show? We'll start with Six. What made you come up with the name to the show?
So the name of our show, Cancel for Maintenance, is actually, it's a status. Like whenever an aircraft leaves or takes off for flight or doesn't, there's a certain status code you have to put up to report to all the different reporting authorities. So Cancel for Maintenance is actually a flight status where the flight obviously didn't go because it's canceled because something broke. And that's kind of like a play on words for the jobs we were at, because we would never cancel for anything. It can be a tornado outside and we'll still be trying to fly. I'm like, that's probably not a good idea.
And how about you, Jimmy? How did you come up with the name for your show?
Well, obviously, I have a web for those people who know me. I have a website called crazyfitnessguy.com. What's funny, I used to be known as a different name, but which I can't say because that was trademarked at the time, and I did not know that. And then once I started to outrank Richard Simmons' Wikipedia page, I was not gonna change the name. Sorry, Richard Simmons. There can only be one Crazy Fitness Guy.
Yeah. Okay. And when you're on your show and you're talking about whatever subjects that you're talking about, who are some of the guests that you've brought on? Who is that? I guess anybody that you've had on the show to talk about different subject matter, or is it just one-sided topics? Jimmy, I know you and I know each other as well. We're going to have another joinee right here in a second. Just going to add her to stream. Good morning. Good morning. Before we get into that question, what I'll do is I'll let Tabitha introduce herself and her show as well. So you can go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody, introduce your show, and then we'll get right back into the conversation.
Good morning, guys. I'm so sorry I'm late. Thank you for having me. Tabitha, I'm the hostess of No Interruptions, the podcast. It's a weekly offering of elevation. So I have an audio in the morning and 5 interviews in the evening, which you can catch on Facebook. And thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're gonna ask you the question as well. How is it that you came up with your name for your show?
Because first of all, it's a communication-based podcast, right? And so with communication, the reason why we misunderstand each other is because we interrupt each other midway because we are listening with the intent to respond, right? Instead of actually listening. So I think that the reason why I came up with no premise is I want an understanding on every topic that I bring to the table. I want to understand, I want the guest to understand, and I want the audience to understand as well. And the best way to understand in communication is not to interrupt each other. So the no interruptions is strictly the premise of communication.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll get back to the original question before Tabitha joined us. And I guess the question was, when you're doing your show, Jimmy, I know you've been on, I believe it's 57 different shows, different
59.
podcasts. 59?
Wow.
It was a couple off. I was almost there. But do you bring on guests to your shows as well to speak about different topics? Have you had any celebrities on your shows?
I had
what kind of guests do you have usually for your shows?
I had motivational speakers, authors, other people who have podcasts. I've also had I had you obviously, and yeah, so I had many different kind of guests. I had people talk about autism, fitness. Oh, and I had some personal trainers as well. So I try to keep everything. I keep it open to a lot of different things as long as the health and wellness related or lifestyle.
Sorry about that. Can you hear us now, Crystal?
I can hear. Oh my goodness, sorry. I figured out what was going on. I'm so sorry about earlier.
No problem. No problem. Okay, so I'm going to go right back to Crystal now, just because she just joined us right now. Tell us who you are, introduce your podcast, and what you talk about on your show.
So I'm Crystal Burnett. My podcast is the Universal Podcast. It's everything that goes on the internet and how it affects our lives in real life and online, from behaviors, communities to overall how everyone responds to things on the internet. We talk about it on my podcast. We've been out since October of 2020, and we've been doing pretty well. So far. It's slow pace, but I'm loving what I'm doing.
Good, and that's the main thing that you want to do, right? You want to enjoy what you're doing. You don't want to have to worry about, hey, I'm not at the top numbers right now. I'm just having fun and doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, since I've had experience in media for 6 years, and I started off doing radio, but going into podcasts, I was a little nervy at first, but the podcast of how it turned out is becoming a lot more than me, but and I'm loving it. I'm happy with it.
Great. Okay, so let's get back to the question that we were talking about. Jimmy, were you finished with what you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to Tabitha. How about you? Do you usually have guests on for your shows? Or are you more of a solo show where you're speaking about understanding? Do you bring in any kind of celebrities on your shows at all?
The irony is this, right? So I know like a lot of people after they do the lives, that is the audio conversion like that you find on Spotify, Apple. That's not how mine is set up, right? So I understand that people will not sit for the most part and listen to me talk for 1 hour without seeing me, because attention span is so short, I give about minute elevations on the topic in which I'm bringing my guest on to speak, right? And so the guests that I have on are much like the ones that he has. So I have authors, motivational speakers. Now, mind you, I've literally been doing this for 2 months, 8 shows once a week. So, so I've had motivational speaker, I've had an author from a God shift, I've had a minister. So I have guests on at night on the live version, because people are more prone to watch for an hour than they are to listen for an hour.
Definitely. Yep. And Six, how about you?
So most of the guests that we have, they were either like something aviation related, and it's usually like jobs that no one knows about or no one cares to know about, like records keeping, women in aviation, or guys who've moved on from the aviation community and do other things like start their own nonprofits, do community service and things of that nature. We've had 2 celebrities, but they're like they're not like megastar celebrities yet that I know of. One of them is Arabia Essence. She was a actress that got nominated by Black SD Magazine as the #1 actress of 2020. I think that was like our largest celebrity so far. And she was doing something completely non-aviation related. It was just mostly about how to schedule your day because you're so busy, and then how to de-stress because you're so busy. And then we normally get guests that either elevate the people in the community, or just people who can share stories that help inspire you to want to keep pushing and keep doing better.
Nice. Okay. And Crystal, how about you?
For my podcast, we have a lot of regular guests that come in. Just recently, we're starting to have interviews with we're having special guests. Recently, we just released an episode about it last night too. We had an episode with a producer and director in Hollywood named Dominique LaShore, and she's been in Hollywood for several years, and she was on our podcast to discuss about her book called The New Dawn Saga. So yeah, I would say it's the most realistic sci-fi series. I think people should really check it out. It's amazing. And beside that, we've had a tabletop company called Dogs Bound that's releasing their game in May. And in the next couple weeks, we have a few guests coming in. We're about to interview another producer director in Hollywood, a YouTuber has been hitting it big recently, and a future director who's trying to make it into the market of horror. So, but when it comes to regular podcasting, I have our regular guests at I guess the squad, as you may will, to have our regular conversations, and our topics will go from easygoing. We have our fun times where we play games and such, but we also have serious topics like for Black Lives Matter, politics, because from our perspective, we're pretty neutral when it comes to putting out stuff that can make people, I guess, tick in a sense, but we're trying to keep it at a conversational level.
Now, when you guys are trying to get guests, do you ever find it difficult to get those guests? Do you ever find it hard to book like same dates where you're available, they're available? If you're looking for a celebrity to come on, do you ever find that difficult? It's open to anybody who wants to answer that question.
Honestly, recently it's kind of the opposite for me. Because lately we've been having a hard time finding time to put regular episodes because we've been getting a lot of guests.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah, but because especially recently in the last 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, we put in a lot because February we've been focusing on 2 major interviews. So I was trying to see, okay, I make this the rest period, make it a fun day for everyone, fun recording. and then we'll go back to like the seriousness for a while, and then try to go back to regular scheduling. But yeah, the finding guests so far, for us, it hasn't been really too hard, but it's actually been a lot fun getting to know other people and their stories.
Yeah. And Tabitha, how about you?
When you were talking in the last segment, I was literally just thinking that, like, how do everybody get their guests, right? So it was just ironic that you asked that question.
Yeah.
It's so strange because out of nowhere, you're reaching out to people, right? Just knowing that either it's going to be a yes or a no. And sometimes, like, they don't respond, especially in the time that you feel they should respond. And then boom, like, out of nowhere, they respond, right? And so for me, it's just a matter of networking. So I reach out to the people in which are experts in the topic in which I am discussing. And then after that, I just wait for them to reach out. And the way that it works is it's just through communication. Our schedules, everybody knows it's only on a Tuesday that I do shows. So it's always going to be a Tuesday, 7:30 to 8:30. So it's like a non-negotiable unless the guest, like, for example, this coming week, she can only do at 6:00, but it's still a Tuesday. So with that in mind, it makes it easier on the scheduling, right? And so that's the way I do it. I just reach out to people that I think fits whatever it is that I have going on.
Right. And Six, how about you?
We've actually had a good run of finding guests. As far as scheduling is concerned, it gets a little bit dicey because we're all recording this remotely. So all three of us on the show are all remote from each other. So we got to make sure our lives are synced up, and then make sure the guest we're able to line it up with the guests themselves. And some of them, they're in the East Coast, they're overseas, they only work or they only off like 1 or 2 days out of the entire week, and it's never consistent. So it's that was like the hardest part, if anything, is just getting the schedules to line up. But usually we try to schedule a time where we'll go off of their day off, like, okay, your day off is a Friday or a Thursday, so we'll try to do everything to line it up in such a way where we're able to meet it and not have to interrupt your life too much because you are coming on as a guest.
And Jimmy, how about you?
I would have to say, it's a little mix of both. I've used many different scheduling tools, just because my schedule's literally all over the place. I'm pretty much busy, every night during the week, and I pretty much record Wednesdays and Fridays. I did some Mondays, sometimes some Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I try to stick with Wednesdays and Fridays. And I think the hardest part is just for when I wouldn't say the schedules that won't match up, but it just some of the tools that I've used. It's either that they kind of promise you that, oh, here's the feature that you need, that we offer, but then the features don't work, and so it's showing up in this person's time, for their time in their time zone, but then when it shows up, so I give you an example. Somebody was looking to somebody thought that my schedule was in 5 p.m. their time, 5 p.m. my time, 2 p.m. their time. It was actually quite the opposite. And I was like, this thing said it's supposed to show people different time zones and sync with my time zone. Well, it didn't do that, and I totally got rid of the company because I just can't deal with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, thanks for screwing up my schedule. And and when I contacted support, they all told me, it's like, oh, well, we only give support for premium users. And it's like, and yet here you are talking to me 6 different times. So which one is it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I know. Quick story from our part of the convention part is the last convention that we ran was back in December for a holiday convention, and we reached out to I believe, and Sarah, you can correct me if we're wrong in the chat. There was 450 celebrities that we had reached out to try and get the celebrities to come on, and I think we heard back from 2. And we got one of them on, I believe, for sure. And then we have 2 on for this convention, which got back to us. And the good thing is that when we do reach out to them, yeah, it's a lot of work to get them, but we do get the celebrities that were on. We had Matthew Moy on from Two Broke Girls in the opener. He also joined one of the panels that was just last night. And he was fantastic. And we have another celebrity coming up he was actually on the panel as well. He was Adam Bush. He'll be on the closing as well. So it's great when you hear back from these guys and you're actually shocked and surprised, because you'll get back word from them and you'll be like, oh my God, they answered. What do I do now? Because you're not expecting that response.
Absolutely.
And
Right.
so finally you get that response back and you're like, okay, now this is real. Now we got to go with it. So it turned out to be great. So
That's so funny.
Like, panic and run. Panic and run.
It's a panic and run, but that's incredible.
It is.
Yeah. So, okay, what is everybody's favorite episode that they've done so far on their show?
Oh,
Oh, that's like pulling a rabbit out of the hat.
Like, no, it sounds crazy, but I'll tell you what, the one that had the most streams is Self-Love, No Filter. But all of the episodes are my favorite, right? Because I just feel like my content is for everybody. And I feel like it's just all awesome. But the people feel like Self-Love, No Filter, that's the one that has the most streams.
Crystal, how about you?
okay. So picking an episode is like picking a child of what you like the most, which one you love the most, and it's really hard for me to per se. I would say, experience wise, is definitely the one that I did recently with Dominique Lachar, because of learning such a incredible mind that she has. But if I'm looking at it in the sense of charted, which one people like the most, is definitely my first episode, which is Game Over, Would You Like to Start Again? And when we talk about gaming companies or certain things that people in the gaming industry has done that affected the gamer when it comes to their experiences, and if it's in the tech side of things or if it's in the more political humanity of things. But yeah, my recent episode, I would say, is my favorite so far that released.
And 6, how about you?
I mean, they pretty much nailed it. Like, I'm trying to pick out which child I love the most. I would say I have a 2-way tie. If I were to really nitpick it down, my first one would be our episode. It was called "Shit Ain't Done Till the Paperwork's Done." That was our first ever episode with a guest.
The title.
That was our first ever episode with a guest, and she was in the East Coast, so getting her to get the schedule with us was just a feat in itself. And then hearing her story throughout the whole thing was like, I am so mind blown by you that there's people like you that exist. Our guest at the time was a maintenance record specialist. She was also a single mother of 2, working on her master's, already had 2 degrees prior, has a journeyman cert in 2 different trade skills and stuff like that. And I'm just like mind blown. Like, how are you still functioning and you're working full time with 2 kids as a single mom? And then my other one is, it's called Everybody's Working for the Weekend, and that was our first ever in-person recording with the entire crew of all our families there. This is also during COVID time too, so we're all like 6 feet apart in this round table, and just that was like our first time actually being together and just feeding off each other's energy. So we were like back and forth bantering, and we had to cut out like a solid 15 minutes because we overshot our window for the actual recording. I think those 2 were like our two favorite, because it was probably one of the most fun we've done, and that was like a milestone for us to actually get guests and then actually do a recording in person.
Jimmy, how about you? Jimmy, Jimmy, there's only one answer to this question, Jimmy. Come on.
No pressure or anything. This is the second time somebody did that to me. I wouldn't say I have a favorite one. One of my one of the most streamed, one of the most played podcasts was from this motivational speaker that I had on. It was about like 20 minutes long, maybe 30. I forget how long it was, but it had like 323 plays on it. I was like, dang. And it's like, somebody must really like that one. And I'm going to see if I could ever get the guest back on again. But then my other favorite would be, or my other one that I really enjoyed was, he was he was I met this person on Twitter. He was like one of my first few Twitter followers when I was first starting. And I kid you not, I sucked at marketing back then. I had no idea what I was doing. And he followed me out of so many people. And we got to know each other over the years. When I first launched the podcast, I had him as a guest. He is a New York Times bestselling author. He has I think he's working on his 5th book now. And we literally went back and forth, just asking questions. We even had a lot of jokes, and it just went one joke after another. And I think that episode was like 35 minutes, and it was hard for me to be so serious because I was nervous at first because we were having so many technical difficulties.
Mhm.
And I think it was just because of my awesome internet in the house. But yeah, it was really super fun just going back and forth. But they're pretty much all my favorite. So I can't really say, oh, it's my most favorite one ever. But
The answer that we were looking for is your appearance on Pod Jerky.
no pressure.
No pressure at all.
No. All right. So everyone's biggest accomplishment or favorite accomplishment that you have accomplished so far while doing this podcast. We'll start off with Jimmy.
I got featured in New York City Times Square.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, that was actually a post you made in the group. Your podcast got displayed on the New York City Times Square billboard, and everyone was very proud of that.
Oh, and I also to say I've also reached 1,600 total plays on it.
Nice.
That's incredible.
It's only monthly
Excellent.
too.
Yeah. Awesome. And 6, how about you?
Wow. Let's see. There's a bunch that's running through my head right now. I think one of the biggest accomplishments that we've had, besides having listeners give us like Uber feedback, and just kind of feeding our stories, is we finally figured out how to pull rankings for podcasts. Didn't know how to do it. For the longest, we're like Google searching, how do I figure out where I rank ever? And like all these different like paid ads pop up. But we finally found one, which is on Chartable. If any of you decide to look that up,
got it.
It's totally free. It's kind of like just signing up for an email account. Anyways, so we pulled it up and we looked at where we were in the chart, and it blew us away that we hit top 5 in like 3 different countries, and for some reason we put out on number 1 in the Philippines. Totally random, did not know that, but the fact that we put within even the top 100 in any country was just mind-blowing to us. And then to see it go top 10, we're like, wow, people really like hearing us talk shit about their job.
Yeah. And how about you, Tabitha?
I think the biggest accomplishment I've had is going live. Like, I've been on social media for a long time, and then I took like a 3-year hiatus, and then I just came back to start the podcast 2 months ago. And prior to that, I've never posted a video. Like, before the hiatus, I've never posted a video. I've never on live. And so like my first live, I almost sweated my entire face off. I was so nervous. So just being able to go live is probably the biggest accomplishment.
Nice.
Excellent. And Crystal.
Well, I wouldn't say I hit the accomplishment that you guys have achieved, because a lot of your accomplishments are incredible, and it has an incredible story behind it. I think my biggest accomplishment is that just my podcast is out. It's been on the table for me since late of 2019, and my biggest accomplishment is just how my podcast has become the way it is, because it was completely different than when I had it in the pre preparation the pre preparation times before it went from a solo project into a project that I do with a lot of people that are close to me, my friends, who've worked really hard to get where I need to be, so I can bring them with me. So my biggest accomplishment is that my podcast is out and it's the way it is, and I'm very proud of it.
Excellent. And I want to touch on something that Tabitha said is going live. We actually had a panel discussion on that and where the podcast is eventually going. When we started off on our podcast, it was strictly audio. We didn't do any video at all either. And the first audio episode, I was a little bit nervous as well, being like, I've never done this before. I've never been in front of a mic before. I've never been in front of an audience before. Where's this going to go? Who's going to listen? And Tabitha said going live, my first live was nerve-wracking. And it's like, I was not on social media at all before starting the podcast. I was not very present. I had Facebook, but I didn't use it very often. But now you're on all these social media channels. You have your face out there. We have this convention going for everybody to see. And the panel talked about how it's kind of transitioning into more of video streaming than it is the audio streaming. Like, don't get me wrong, I listen to audio in the car on my drive to work. It's excellent to listen to podcasts. I have a 45-minute drive to work. But it's headed in the direction of the video. So that was a good point to bring up, that you were proud that you were actually able to go live on video, because I think that's a big step for everybody in the podcasting game.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a question now for all of you. So I don't know if you guys ever picked up on this, but as a podcasters, do you ever feel like that that the analytics tools just suck? Here's an estimated number of subscribers. If I can get the exact number of social media followers, email subscribers, the number of visitors to my website accurately, here's an estimated number of subscribers. So I could have more than 183 or less than 183. I have two podcasting tools. One is my host that tells me, that resets every single new episode. And then I have this other one that is free and open source. And it says, like, you have 183 estimated subscribers. And it's like, I think there should be some rule, some law out there that they can't use, say, we have an advanced analytics. Advanced means that you should be pinpointing me the number of exact subscribers.
Yeah.
So now how big of a? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. To answer your question, Jimmy, I know exactly what you're talking about. We have our hosting site that says you have an estimate number of this many subscribers, and it all depends on how many listens we got for a 30-day span. So like, if 1 month we did worse than the others, like, oh, you lost subscribers, you're doing terrible. And then another one where like we did like, I don't know, 5-10% better than the month before, like, oh, your subscribers are through the roof. I'm like, you're doing so great. I'm like, wow, like what an emotional turnaround. Like just in a roller coaster. Am I doing great or am I doing bad? What's wrong with me? And then even more so with like say like Chartable, for instance. Your position rankings on the podcast charts, whichever platform you decide to pick from, it's like daily. You'd be doing great and then you'll drop 100 points, or you'd be doing terrible and then you shoot up 100 points. Like, what is going on? Am I doing great? Am I doing terrible?
Right.
Six. I don't know if this is how you feel, but I also use this tool called Backtracks that
Backtracks.
which is an analytics tool, open source. It could be used on any hosting for any hosting provider, and it's funny. And like it tells me the exact 30 days, but it shows all the where all the episodes were played from and different players. That's what I didn't like about. I don't mind using Chartable for the free thing, but
Mhm.
it is when they didn't give me the where the other plays came from. It's like that's ridiculous. But then the paid version is like rip off.
Yeah, I'll definitely give that a look. Backtracks.
Okay,
That's
so let's extend from that. Biggest surprise of maybe one of the countries you have reached that you never expected to reach. Talking about analytics, what's one of the biggest countries that you have? Sorry, not biggest countries. Most surprisingly, countries that you have reached out there. Let's start with Tabitha.
Just kind of like backtrack to his question. I have a love-hate relationship with all of it. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I have a love-hate relationship with numbers, with analytics. So legit, I don't have Chartable. I don't have any of those applications that these guys are naming. But so I'm like, oh, okay, all of this is interesting, right? And I'm not saying I shouldn't or don't follow it, but I feel like if I do, I will lose my content because the focus is I am now chasing something totally different when in fact my audience should be chasing what it is I'm giving, right? So the only thing I know is how many listens or streams it is, right? And then the countries. And so the surprising thing to me is it's in 18 countries, which is insane, right? And the biggest country I think is the one that it reached that kind of shocked me. Is like, really, what, why, right? It's Chile.
Very nice. And Crystal, how about you?
Let me see. India at one point. What was it? India, the UK. Well, not just. Well, I'm happy for the UK. I'm not surprised with the UK. But I guess the Middle Eastern, a lot of the Middle Eastern countries that have gotten a lot of have got a lot of streams. I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting. I didn't think I didn't think I would go this far because, of course, most of my stuff is either from America, Canada, but yeah, Indonesia and India really surprised me.
Six, how about you?
I would say the two most surprising countries that we found ourselves streaming in. This was back in our 5th episode, which was about the weather. And we were looking up to see what it was, and Zimbabwe popped up. I'm like, really, Zimbabwe? Like, I'm talking to our co-host, like, do any of you guys know any friends in Zimbabwe? Like, or does anyone like currently doing some job in Zimbabwe? Like, that's funny. And then the second biggest surprise was the Philippines. Like, we don't know any friends in the Philippines. We don't for as far as we know, people in the Philippines don't listen to English podcasts, especially about airplanes. But then it shows up, and it shows up as number one. I'm like, well, I guess we're the only aviation podcast in the Philippines.
And Jimmy, how about you?
Well, my podcast has been streamed or listened to in 7 different countries, which kind of shocked me because it's like I know like the like all the magazines and newspapers are literally going like hell in a handbag, and they're eventually gonna like go out of business. But I never thought a monthly podcast would be popular in Japan. I had some in the UK. I had also had some in India and France. I forget the other two, but or the other four, but a lot from the US, some from Canada, but and yeah, I try not to pay too close to the only analytics that I pay close attention to is my website analytics because yes, you got to make sure, depending on the algorithm changes of Google. But the podcast, I either kind of like, I take it with a grain of salt because, uh, like we just said, since they just reset every 30 days and whatnot, and it's like, well, I can't even tell if I was good or was bad, or I was like, as long as people are listening, I guess that's all that counts.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, when I started this podcast, I never thought we'd end up where we are either. And right now we have been played in over 70 countries. And the most surprising one to me is Nepal. And I looked at that and I was like, what? Like, who's playing our podcast in Nepal? And we actually reached Iceland as well. So
Nice.
very
that's
happy
great.
about that. Yeah, so very happy about that. And it's just very, very surprising. But we are at our 45-minute time slot, so I'm going to give everybody a chance to give out their social medias, tell everyone where they can find your podcast, and give a nice goodbye. So let's start with Six.
All right, so you can find our podcast, the Canceled for Maintenance podcast, on Facebook, same name, Canceled for Maintenance, Instagram, Twitter at CXMX Podcast. We do have a YouTube channel, but we're not at that point now to actually have our own permalink for it. So, but if you just YouTube search "Cancel for Maintenance" podcast, we'll pop up. We also have our website, cancelformaintenance.com, and pretty much any application where you can listen to a podcast, we're on it. Pandora, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, Google, all of those. Pretty much anything that you can put headphones to, we're on it.
Excellent. Jimmy.
The easiest way just to find me is just go to crazyfitnessguy.com. As you can see, well, I mean, if you go there, I'm on so many gosh darn different platforms. It's not even funny. There's not even one single company and not one single brand out there that has as many platforms as I am. That's an
Crystal, how
accomplishment.
about you?
You can find the Universal Podcast basically anywhere you get your podcast. Spotify, Anchor, the Google Podcast, Apple, Breaker, Radio Public, and YouTube. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and Twitter. At Universal, if you want to see me personally, and the Universal Podcast on Instagram.
Excellent. And last but not least, Tabitha.
Yay. So it's No Interruptions, and you can find it wherever you stream your favorite mentioned. So Google, Apple, Pandora, wherever you get your favorite podcast. You can also follow social media, the underscore for brand at Miss Tab underscore on Twitter. And then you can go from there. Every other thing that you need to find. And then every link is in the bio to everywhere you can find me. So thank you.
Nice.
Excellent. And you can find Pod Jerky, Twitter, Instagram at Pod Jerky. You can find all of our links at bitesize.me/Pod Jerky or Linktree, which is linktr.ee/Pod Jerky. All of the links are right there. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today on this podcast roundtable. It was great to meet some new faces. Jimmy, you and I know each other already, so an old face that got to connect with again. But it was great to meet some new podcasters out there. Hopefully you guys stay in the group, stay engaged in the group. We have some big announcements coming up at the end of this convention next Sunday. Couple of changes that are going to be made and the announcement of our next convention that's going to be happening. So stay tuned for that. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you guys all later.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.